The last group of flies I've got here, what I call the vertical jig flies. They can be either a crayfish, a bait fish, but the key to these flies is that you can fish them with a dry line. And you know, there's a mixed bag. About half the guys like to fish dry line, about half like to fish sinking line. But what I like to do is I like to build flies that I can fish both ways. I can fish it with a floating line, or I can fish it with a sinking line. But I just want to show you a little bit of the difference, how I build mine personally. The one on the left is my big hole bug, and there's three, they're all identical fly, different colors. They're all three are big hole bugs in different colors, with one exception I've got here. And what I've got on this one in the middle, it's a Roman Mauser tungsten head. They're sculpin heads and minnow heads, and I'm going to show you in a minute. And it's just, basically it's a different style. On all these I've got the dumbbell eyes on the bottom, and the tail, they're all articulated so their tails stick up, and they're designed to go up and down. So if you're running a dry line, you throw it out and you're letting your leader drop, your fly pull the leader down, whereas opposed to with the sinking lines, the line sinks the fly. With this style of fly, you're going to use a longer leader and you're going to let the fly sink on its own. Oh, got him. Got him. Nice fish. Nice fish. All right. Is that a cutty? That's a cutty. Hey. I don't know where the net is. Oh, I ain't ready out. You're Cutty King today, man. Yeah, I've got to see.
Right here.
All right, hold on, I'll just go over here. We're gonna have trouble doing that. Where'd he go? Come here.
Nice.
Fish overboard? I think I'm gonna have trouble doing that. Fish juggling. Where'd he go? Cutty, should have seen the brown he had eat up there. Yeah, he had a toad come at him. He ate it, just he.
Dangler error.
Tail comes up, goes back up, and you start getting the serpentine action out of the fly. And that's pretty unique. I mean, it gives you a whole nother way of fishing the fly. And so I'm just gonna go through, there's nothing different about the flies other than the way they're headed. And this one's got a little tungsten bead on it. And same thing, it's a small crayfish pattern, lots of rubber legs, two-tone tail. Of course, you've got your standard JJ, which is a great vertical jig fly. You know, that one would pull your line down. I've got a sump here. This is I showed you the sump in the original basic flies in olive. I just grabbed one in the tan. The bead head, or the bead eyes, the lead eyes are on the bottom. So again, it's gonna drop and swim. You're gonna get a serpentine action out of it. And these we've already seen. We saw the Peanut Envy. Conehead, light fly. It's heavy enough to sink the fly and come back up and down. My absolute favorite bait fish pattern, I fished this a lot in the last 2 weeks. This is called a articulated smoke wagon. And this one has the Roman Mauser head on it. Little rain button.
He doesn't like you.
Just about fell out of the boat for that one. Come here.
Show him.
Oh, little rain. He took a little swimmer. Yeah, I switched over to a white and olive articulated smoke wagon. Had one brown. I just started slowing down. I'm jigging it more than anything. I'm just kind of popping it along on the bottom in those little pockets, but they're not, the water must be a little cooler than it's been. Had another guy look at it. Just hitting all these little small pockets, hoping for fish that are, there's one, eat it. Oh, he came and got it. That was a brownie. Oh, came back, gave me the second chance.
3 times the charm. Better fish.
Better
Nice
fish.
bow. Oh, big rainbow.
That's a bigger bow. Hey, get away from there.
The net?
I think I'll net him up because we're in this fast water. Oh. That's better. They're growing.
The thick one.
Getting bigger.
They're growing.
They're growing.
Slowly but surely.
Water temp's going up.
But what this does is that the back of the hook is lighter, everything's lighter than the head. And again, it's a tungsten head, got a lot of flash built into it. And then the kind of new patterns. These patterns here, they're tied with bait fish emulator. Probably this, I think it's the most simple pattern on the planet. It's basically, I can tie this fly, any one of these, and probably, including coloring the flies, in maybe a minute. Basically, all it is this bait fish emulator is on, you just wrap it around the hook, tie it off, put the head over top. All these, I'll show you in a second, all these Roman Mauser heads are designed to slide over the eye of the hook after the fly is done. So you tie it, wrap it off, put it on its side, and take a magic marker and color it up the color you want it. All these flies are designed to fish, not necessarily designed to fish on a dry line, but these are all great applications for a dry line. And of course, you can just adapt any of the flies you want to do that. So it's pretty basic. I just want to show you these heads because they're so new. They've just come to the US, like I said, this year. And they're a tungsten head. They're slotted. They're designed to take the fly and finish your fly, and then you put the head over top of it. And they're counterbalanced. That's what makes them totally unique. You take a regular cone head or a bead, they're not counterbalanced. They have the same weight on the top as they do on the bottom. And these are slotted. You've got, it's lighter on the top, and the bottom, it's longer. And so you can never, the fly never tips over. It does exactly what you want. These here are sculpin head. I'm not sure you can see them very well, but the sculpin head has the same thing. It's lighter on the top, heavier on the bottom, and so the fly never tips over. I've got that on the big hole bug here. The bottom's much bigger than the top is, so consequently the fly always rides exactly how I want it. With its head down, I jig it, it comes back up, and it just keeps doing exactly. Instead, if you don't do it, you know, the old-fashioned way is to use a dumbbell eye, and then you either put the dumbbell on the bottom or the top, ouch, you're in your finger, put the dumbbell on the bottom if you want the hook down, or if you want it to ride, you know, the other way, you just put it like that. I personally like my hooks riding down. I lose a few more flies that way, but I like the way it hooks the fish better. So basically that's it. It's not really anything really radical or different. It's just the way you weight the flies and the ability to use a floating line and still get the fly to any depth you want. It's just how you set those up and how you weight them. And again, I always weight my flies in the forward half. I don't just start wrapping lead around the hook and hope that it sinks where it should. Everything's by design. That's why I love these new heads. And if you're using the old way, it's just, you know, just how you set your materials on the hook. But I think if you're going to run floating lines, that you'll really like these new bait fish emulators, the big hole bug, stuff like that with those tungsten heads or a tungsten cone, because it keeps the fly light enough to cast, but it still sinks, you know, to the depth you want it to. I'm going to work a dry line right now, and I don't fish a lot of dry lines. I fish them specifically shallows and upstream for the most part. When I do, I almost always fish some sort of cone head, tungsten head. I also carry split shot and a little assortment of 2 different sized tungsten beads with me. If I want to put a bead on, if I've got to fly, for example, a TNA bunker that's not going to sink at all, and there's no way to pull it down with the fly line, I simply put it up above, put it on my leader, tie my knot, let the bead go right down to the head, done. And it gets it just far enough under. And a lot of the stuff, for example, when we were on the South Fork, we were fishing water this deep. And then it's really not a big advantage to be using a sinking line. And the line I'm fishing is the line I designed with SA. It's the Streamer Express floating line. And that's pretty critical. You've got to have a little quicker rod when you're going to fish dries with these flies. Obviously, they're not going to
cast the same as a dry fly, but I like a little faster rod, generally 9 or 9.5 footers. And I usually use a pretty basic leader. I mean, I make my own up. When we were on the wind with Darren, there were times when I looked over and Darren was fishing a 4-foot leader.
With the sinking line, you're going to let the lines pulling the fly down. With the floating line, your fly is going to pull the line down or your leader down. So a basic, just a standard 9-foot leader is fine, but go to 1X. Do not go less than 1X, and then you'll be fine on that. If you're running small flies, you can push it down to 2X. I don't very often. I usually start, if I'm afraid of that, if I want more sink, start with a 1X. If you really think you've got to drop it, then add 2 or 3 foot, tip it to the end of that leader. I personally tie my own up. They're very simple. I do 3 foot of 20, I do 2 foot of 12, and then I do whatever for tippet. Usually 4 foot of 10-pound tippet off of that.
Nice.
That was a nice fish. Thank you for netting him.
I fish floating lines 2 or 3 ways. One way is that what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw up and I'm going to twitch it, and all I'm trying to do is jig the fly up and down. So I do a short, just rod twitch, but notice every time I twitch that rod, I strip that excess in, because again, the fly line is doing nothing to manipulate the fly. You've got to do it all. So I'm either gonna just do short jigs like that, and every time I jig it, I strip that excess out. Sometimes I do it at the same time. And so all I'm doing is I'm getting the fly to do this through the water. It's not a deep water technique, it's a shallow water technique for what I'm doing right there. The first way I fish these things is I'm gonna fish upstream, and I'm gonna do kind of a quick twitch like this. And I don't know if you can see the fly or not, but it's going up and down. But the critical thing is every time I twitch, get off my line, every time I twitch like that, you see I pick the slack up. I'm twitching the line up and down and making sure that I pick up the slack. What I don't want to have happen, I don't want to twitch it, and see all this excess line sitting here. If you had to set, there'd be nothing left. So it's just a quick twitch, twitch, twitch. Now, and if you're gonna fish like that pool right there, what I would do is I just let it start sinking, and I would do minor little ones, letting the fly sink to the bottom or closer to it. I don't want it to be right on top. But you notice every time I do that, I pull the excess out of it. Line control is everything. One thing I haven't mentioned is how critical it is that you always have your line under your finger. You cannot strip with your hand over here or do this. Don't let it go. When you cast out, the second it goes down, whether it's this, whatever finger works for you, the second the fly hits the water, your line should be underneath there. And everything happens right here. No matter what kind of retrieve you do, if you're doing a jerk strip retrieve where you're jerking the rod, stripping the excess, jerking the rod, stripping the excess, it never goes like this to set a hook. You're just totally out of position when this happens. When you set a hook on a fish, if you go like this, first thing that's gonna happen, your hands are gonna go over your head to catch up, and you're going to take your eyes off the fish, which is insanity because you got to see what the fish is doing. You're going to go like this, you'll go up in the air, and the next thing you're going to do is that. See that? Doesn't work. You're going to go like this, and then you'll see guys stripping, getting all crazy. When the fish hits, your line should be right here, and you should bang, you hit it, and you should be in total control the second you see what the fish is doing. One thing that a dry line has an advantage over a sinking line, especially in water like this. If you want to keep a fly, I've got 4 currents converging out here. Really fast right here, pretty fast there, a medium one, a real slow one, and then the other fast one way out where I'm fishing. One thing that the dry line gives you the ability to do is keep the line above that or mend it without moving the fly out of the pocket, because your fly line's on top of the water. So I'm out there and I mend that. Every time you mend the fly or the line, just like with a dry fly, if you over mend your line, you move the fly. Well, you're going to use that to your advantage here. You throw out, you mend your line, the fly just moved. Mend it, mend it, mend it. You're twitching the fly every time that happens. I want to run that current. If I want to run the fly straight down the edge of that current, or if it was a log, for example, throw out, do a mend. The line's now pulling the fly downstream, and it parallels whatever you're looking to fish. The disadvantage to a sinking line here would be that all the line's down, so it'll get caught in these swirls. So it's a give and a take. If you're fishing a ton of pocket water like this on foot, dry line's a great way to go. I mean, I got a couple buddies on the South Fork, Jason Pruitt and Larry Larson, and they catch a heck of a lot of fish doing it. And they do all the same techniques. I switched over to my 200. It's the Streamer Express. It's the Galloup Streamer Express 200. This line comes in 250, 3, 354. You can see this is a 40-foot head. You're trying to get a fly to go up and down on a slow up and down. So you lift, strip, lift, strip, lift, strip. Always, you're just moving the fly up and down like this. But what's critical is that you don't do this. You don't go and wait, because now you got a bunch of slack out there. You lift, you strip. You lift, you strip. And what you got to do is you're trying to decide how far you want your fly to go up and down. I like it to go up about 2 foot and then drop down 2 foot and then come up like this. And it's a crayfish type thing, or a wounded minnow, whatever. Just something that's going up and down. It's a slow water or slow retrieve. So what you do is you just pick up, and then it's critical that you strip that excess. You don't strip so fast that you impede the drop of the fly. You simply pick up and then let it drop, and that's when it's so critical that you're stripped. So you throw it out, you do your jig up, and then you strip at exactly the speed you think the fly is dropping. You can see the line. If you're doing too fast, you'll see you're picking the fly up. So you go out, you throw down, you pick up, and then you drop your rod. Critical is that you strip that excess, but you don't strip more than what's dropping. And some of these big troughs down here, especially when they're being a little tight-lipped, I like to do a vertical jig. I do this a lot with dry lines, but I'm going to just show you how I'm letting this fly. I'm using a sinking line, and I'm just picking up. But the one thing you watch is you lift your rod. You're just trying to get you're picking the fly up and down, but you make sure you slip that excess out of there. I took it from the bank. I worked the bank out 2 or 3 foot and didn't get an eat, and now I'm just going to let it dive. You can lose some flies this way, by the way. But I let it get down, and I got a tight line. Now I'm going to do a double step up, and you see I strip all that excess, and you watch that line right where it goes in. If you're picking up and you get an eat, you'll be golden. If you're dropping and you give a bunch of slack, they eat it on the drop a lot. I'm gonna kind of do a modified here. I'm just kind of slow jigging back and forth there. But you watch your line where it goes in the water. It's hard to do with a sinking line because the line's dark. But you just watch it, just like an indicator. And if it moves, man, slam it. We're basically working right off that shelf, just picking the fly up and down real soft. We'll work that later with the dry line. I usually let it just kind of drop off the ledge and then let it get down into the actual deep part of it. Let it sink a while and then just pick up, strip your excess,
in the first DVD we did, I really harped on keeping a low rod and stripping like this with your rod low and always getting the rod tip pointing back at the fish. And so I was just breaking that rule right there with this modified vertical jig. But the one thing you do is you're looking, nope. The key is to keep you're still keeping a low rod when you do that. Even if you're picking it up and you're thrumming the rod like this, you notice that every time I do that, because I'm slowing my retrieve and I'm trying to get a whole different action out of the fly. I'm trying to get it to go up and down right now instead of just in one level. But I still continuously have the rod pointing at the fly. The key is to just be able to strike. You need to be able to strike, and if you do this and you just let it go slack, you got 5 foot of slack laying there and you never really get a hook set. So when you do that, when you're jigging it like this, pick it up, strip the excess, pick it up, and just always keep it down. Generally when I do that, I do a pretty short one like that. It's about a 2-footer, and I try to dump it twice sometimes so it kind of just looks erratic in the water.
You know, this works well with leech patterns and crayfish patterns, little broke minnows and stuff like that. But if you're throwing like a sculpin or something or a bait fish like a TNA rainbow or a TNA bunker that's supposed to just be running, it's not such a great retrieve. It still works, but I generally do that more with crayfish and leech patterns. So that's pretty much all the retrieves. What's critical is that you adapt your retrieve to your fly and the water condition. You can't stay stagnant. You cannot just, to be very successful with this, you cannot just stick with one retrieve. If you learn to adapt your retrieves, learn to jerk strip, manipulate that with more than one retrieve, you'll add animation to your flies that'll give a whole new life to the fly, and I guarantee it'll get you more fish. But you've got to be cognizant of the fact that it's not always the same. It's cold, cloudy days like this, where the water's cooled down, you might have to slow things down, do a little of that modified vertical jerk strip like that. You get on a hot, sunny day, and the fish are just railing everything, and you're just as fast as you can go with a jerk strip. You've got to adapt, whichever one the day tells you. It's just like when we switch the flies. You switch the fly to find the color they like. Once you find that, if they're not eating the color and you're going through everything, you've got to adapt your cast and your retrieve and decide which one works best for that day. If you do that, I guarantee you're going to catch more fish.